Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, it's a fresh start to the week. We'll go over Tesla, go over the market, go over what has happened because it's a pretty wild day, honestly, for the most part. And yeah, we'll just go over pretty much everything. I mean, there's to really go over and get a better idea as to what this week can bring. Another big week, ladies and gentlemen. I will quickly double check this actually, this tweet that I favorited just in case to remind myself because there's a lot to remember. Essentially talking about, the major things that are happening this week. The biggest one by far is Wednesday with CPI data. And you guys know how CPI data can go. So we have CPI on Wednesday, we have PPI on Thursday, we have FOMC meeting minutes also on Thursday. And I think this FOMC meeting minutes will include their thoughts because I think this one happened post the banks collapsing, essentially, like Silicon Valley Bank, etc. And we have the banks earnings coming up on Friday as well. So a pretty big week overall for just the market, which of course affects Tesla. So we'll go over all that stuff. But as usual, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. And of course, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research. The market's closing in not too much longer, but I don't think a whole lot is going to change from here. And Tesla most likely will be closing somewhere around this level of down about 0.4%, putting us at pretty much about $184 and some cents. Compared to the market, Tesla pretty much performing more or less in line with the market. As you can see, if we go on like the 3-minute, let's go 5-minute chart, right? So this is Tesla, of course, right? Let's take away all the drawings. And this is QQQ. It looks pretty much identical, right? Probably SPY too, yeah. They pretty much all look more or less the same, except for Apple. Apple's definitely showing a bit more weakness, but Tesla essentially just completely following the market. Now, is this good? Is this bad? What's happening with Tesla? Are we crashing? Are we rallying? What's going on, right? So pretty much, we're still trading within that overall range that we talked about before, right? A little bit lower, in all honesty, but more or less like this general range that we talked about to, zigzag. Now, I will admit, Tesla, it's definitely playing on some thin ice over here. Yesterday, Thursday and today, right? Because in Thursday, it collapsed way back down here. It's still closed within this box. Pretty much as long as it's in this box, I think it's fine. And then today, it opened up pretty low, and then it rallied. I mean, not rallied, I guess it collapsed down even further, all the way down to almost $176 per share-ish, which is pretty low. That was definitely a pretty fierce drop down, in the early parts of the day. But then it just completely recovered throughout the rest of the day, and setting up what looked like it could have been a pretty nice looking hammer candle. But the way the formation is now finishing up, doesn't seem like it'll be that nice. Like, it's not a bad hammer candle. It's a little bit. It's like similar to this one where it doesn't look like a beautiful hammer candle, which is a massive bullish reversal. However, even with that being said, it definitely still looks pretty damn good. Right now, I'm sure a lot of bulls got trapped off of this candle, probably panic sold here. Then most likely a lot of bears got trapped here as they figured Tesla off of this kind of move is just going to continue collapsing. Most likely got trapped there. So this was a bull trap into a bear trap in the span of 2 trading days. And then just not long ago, we also had an absolutely astronomical bull trap here. This market is just really doing a good job right now of just trapping bulls and bears alike, which is pretty impressive in all honesty, right? These are some pretty significant moves that are very easy to trap people from going, very bullish or very bearish, right? It's a pretty volatile move recently for Tesla. So, but with that being said, the fact that Tesla did recover all of this shows that similar to Thursday, the bulls took absolute control and we're still not closing below the 180, right? We're pretty much closing around 184, 185-ish level. And again, like I said, after this level over here of, around this kind of, 185, 186 level, after this level, if we break below 180 becomes the next super crucial level, which is exactly where we bounced on Thursday. And also exactly where, we went below it, but we're still holding above it most importantly. So because that's happening, I think Tesla is actually still looking like it's not too shabby. I definitely think it looks more bullish short term than bearish for now. But again, when I say short term, I mean specifically short term. A day, maybe even as much as a week, but really not much longer than that, right? So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. But you can also see arguably that, over here, as we broke this little downtrend potentially on the 30-minute chart, we did arguably break out of, you can see on the 30-minute, right, this candle right here got rejected at this overall rejection level where we started here, got rejected here, came up here, kind of got rejected here, but then still ended up pushing through and almost like retested it, right? You can almost kind of get an idea here, right? Check it out, right? Here, another rejection, and then over here, it ended up actually breaking through and also retesting it almost as well, as it's kind of almost doing this right here as well, right? Same concept as well. So that's kind of the idea with that right there. So, you can argue that it has broken out of this little downtrend that more or less started from around this general vicinity. But again, still not, in my opinion, super convincing, but there is something to consider there for the bulls. Now, again, the main and the most important thing to consider here is as long as we are at the very least within this little rectangle box, if you will, this, this massive white box I have here, as long as we're essentially within that box and not going below it, and most importantly closing candles below it. That's the most important part. As long as we aren't like constantly closing massive candles below it, for instance this 1 hour candle, I promise you was a massive bearish bait, right? I promise you bears either entered on this candle here, or they entered when it came up to this 180 level to retest it because they thought it will fail, and most likely entered puts there as well. 100% massive bear trap right here, but the rip absolutely destroyed some bears. So on top of that, on the 1 hour, you can see the RSI is starting to set up some potential bullish divergences. Nothing too completely crazy yet, but you can see it is starting to peek its head up above. Even though we are lower than this level, the RSI is substantially higher. Now what we want to see, which will be interesting, is at some point a retracement that makes the RSI come back down, but overall end up higher than this one. So this is where it gets a little confusing, because easily Tesla can actually go up technically even lower while the RSI actually doesn't go lower, and that would be the sign of a bullish divergence and make me even more bullish. However, with that being said, if Tesla does go back down once again, I don't know how much more steam is left for it to continue making these massive, like bullish retracements, if you will, off of a really initial bearish movement like we saw on Thursday and today. I don't know if we can keep doing that over and over and over, right? That's the hard thing I'm not entirely sure about. So we'll have to see how that plays out. However, with that being said, based on today's candle and yesterday's candle and the arguable breakout over here as well, I definitely think Tesla is looking more bullish than bearish for the very short term, potentially up until CPI, because that thing can change quite a bit. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, because that, in my opinion, is extremely important to remember and understand. But again, as long as Tesla is not closing, especially daily candles, below 180, and as long as it's essentially, like I said, in this overall kind of general vicinity over here, to me, all I can see is overall just kind of zigzags up and down within this general vicinity until something actually gives, for better or for worse. And that's kind of the main thing I am personally looking at. Now, like I said before, if one of these finally decides to break, whether it's 200 or this kind of like 180, 185-ish level, support level, finally, cracks and breaks. Right now, it's definitely showing cracks, but it's absolutely not breaking yet. The bulls are kind of coming in at the last second to, do some remote repair work, if you will, as the cracks really start to kind of, broaden. They are still holding it afloat. But with that being said, if we do break one of these crucial levels, so for instance, if the bulls happen to somehow break 200 again, and it's not a massive bull trap like this, right, which you can always have to consider, but if the bulls do that, then of course there's potential that it rallies back up to the very least retest this overall breakdown. So for instance, wouldn't be surprised if we do something like this, more or less, right, back up to about 200 to retest this breakdown that we had overall from this downtrend line over here back when we went to about 100, came back to retest it here, kind of danced along it for a while. It seemed like we were going to rally back above it and then collapse below it. And arguably the downtrend the uptrend has been broken and the downtrend has begun. But like I said many times, it's very common to retest a certain breakout or breakdown. In this case, it's a breakdown. So in other words, as we broke down like this, to come back up to retest it right here, which is around 200-ish, and then make our way back down even further, right? So that is what I personally would not be surprised. Again, I am longer than short term, so like I don't know, maybe 2 weeks out to maybe a month or two out, I'm definitely more bearish than bullish, but by a good amount. However, with that being said, I definitely think very short term, I think it's more bullish than bearish. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a rally, potentially even as high as 200. So overall, get a retest of this breakdown of this trend line that we did break. However, on the flip side, if we don't go up here to retest it and we just completely somehow finally collapse back under pretty much the 180 mark, then I think Tesla at the very least will come back down to somewhere around the mid 160s at the very least. And then if not even further, back down to my main price target of around this level over here of about 150-ish, give or take, which again, we calculated very simply by number one, just being a massive gap, and number two, the Fibonacci retracement putting us at between the 0.5 to the 0.618 level as well. And that's more or less kind of the main general thing that I am currently seeing. But with that being said, Tesla definitely setting up a pretty nice looking candle today for the most part. Arguably better than Thursday's candle. Still a beautiful looking hammer candle. Still looking pretty bullish. Definitely substantially more bullish than bearish. And I honestly would be pretty surprised and genuinely like pretty shocked if Tesla actually does come back down and continue a downtrend, if you will, from here on out after setting up these two candles in a row. Like that would be genuinely quite surprising. Not impossible, especially in a market like this. But I would be pretty surprised if we don't get at least a rally tomorrow and and tomorrow is at least a green day, if not maybe Wednesday as well. Like that would genuinely shock me. And again, I'm very open to it potentially going up to 200 to retest this breakdown. But then again, regardless, I do think that we are ultimately coming down something like this or even like this. I do think we still have a ways to go down. It's just a matter of do we come up to retest the 200 level and this overall trend line that we broke down under before we continue that trend downwards even further. But that's essentially the main things I am looking at right now, ladies and gentlemen. Also on top of that, we have the 100-day moving average below us, but the 50-day moving average above us, so we can potentially come up to just retest the 50 instead of just all the way back up to the 200 to retest the trend line. That is also a possibility. The 21 EMA is also around the 50-day moving average, sitting at pretty much 190, so could very well just come up to retest that, and that could be the resistance that the bears are looking for. We'll see, of course, as it happens, but all in all, this is definitely a pretty bullish looking candle on the daily chart, and I do think that this is going to be quite good for Tesla moving forward, at least for the next day or two. So that's kind of my current thought process, guys. Let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.